I think we are close to being that I could call you a friend, but like we haven't clocked enough hours, I think is the issue with me. But I think like if and when we ever like reconcile that, like I can already tell that we like fuck with each other pretty well. Like we get along famously in the times that we have hung out. But I'm here with Video Dave. Dave, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing pretty good. This is interesting to be here at your 154th show. I don't know if you remember. I think I did your like number 0 show also. And
Okay, let's talk about it. I was going to bring that up. So here's a piece of very self-referential trivia. I believe it was. Yeah, go for it. I believe it was February or maybe March of 2020. I think it was February or March of 2020. It was March. So this was like pretty close to the Judgment Day in 2020, and I had just gotten a Rodecaster Pro, which is a piece of podcasting hardware. Where I was like, cool, I'm kind of into the idea. Maybe I think I had started to talk to Open Mike Eagle about doing a podcast with him on Stony Island, like for his network, not with him. And I'd gotten this piece of hardware, and I was like, I need to test this, and like, I want to see what it would be like if the questions was a podcast. And so I had you and our mutual friend Natalie and a couple other people over to my place to do like the episode 0, like you said, of the questions. And it was always going to be a demo, and I don't remember it. But what's more funny about it is that I had this piece of gear that was about, okay, now I can do like recordings, and I'm going to use this out in the world, and it's going to be crazy. Like probably later in March of 2020, I'm going to really be out there in the world. And I proceeded to sit inside for the next 2-ish years.
Yeah, I had weird thoughts during some lockdowns where I was like, man, I should have done something. I should have done something more memorable at that. Like that was like one of the last times I saw other people for many months, like in that kind of setting. And I was like, man, I should have done a backflip or something. Like it was this weird thought where I didn't know what I was thinking, but I was like, I should have done something.
Oh, I thought you meant that you should have done something like during the lockdown. You're saying like you just should have made a lasting impression before.
That day was my last chance to hang out with real people and like meet new people. And it was like months and months where I was like, man, I should have done something. Like, I don't know what it was never a fully formed thought, but it still cracks me up when I think about it. Cause I'm like, where was I going with that thought? Like,
yeah, Dave, I got to tell you, I don't think any of us were thinking too hard about your impressions in the first months of the COVID lockdown.
Exactly. But had I done 2 backflips out of nowhere, you guys would have been. You would have been.
You're right.
You see what I mean?
I just validated your fear. I was trying to talk you off the ledge, and I just actually pushed you a little bit further.
I should have done something memorable. Like you guys completely forgot I existed.
Yeah. Well,
such a weird.
Maybe. Next time, next pandemic, you will treat every meeting like it's your first or last impression before a pandemic. I don't know.
I need to learn how to backflip.
Yeah, I am further from being able to do that than I think I ever have been in my life. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do a backflip. But we are gathered here today, not just to reminisce over the weird Patient Zero episode of the questions. But you have an album that by the time this episode airs, it's coming out this week. It's this Friday. Your album with Controller 7, it is called Articulated TexTiles.
Oh.
And I was able to listen to the record, and it's a really dope listen. I'm not just going to, this isn't one of those podcasts where I act like I liked it and then I'm going to edit it later and make fun of you after the fact.
Yeah, because I really like those podcasts, but I don't want to be on one.
I mean, shout out to all of them. They're just entertaining listens. But we're going to talk about the album. We're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about the process in making this album. And we're also going to do some hip-hop trivia. So, are you ready to get into this?
I am ready to rock.
He is ready to rock. So we are going to get into the first question in our first round. And that round is called The Choice is Yours. This is our general multiple choice things have changed a little bit since, the last time you did this, but there's a lot of, tenets of the game that still remain.
This looks good. This is a nice presentation. Like I feel like I'm somewhere now.
Thanks. Appreciate that. All right. Round one. The choice is yours. We're going into our first question. Who was the first hip hop group to have a music video aired on MTV? Was it A, Beastie Boys, B, Funky 4+1, C, Run DMC, or D, Sugar Hill Gang?
I mean, we all know that Sugar Hill Gang gets the credit for being like the first hip hop song, even though it's surely not a fact, but they get that kind of credit for being the first. So I give them that, I give it up to them. I really love that song. Run DMC, their first was like the first rap rock, like their big MTV first was the Aerosmith song. Funky 4+1, I don't know if MTV even knows who Funky 4+1 is. So I'm gonna have to say Beastie Boys. That makes the most sense. Beastie Boys must have been the first, because I don't know this one, but I would think that it must have been that they saw the Beastie Boys and they were like, hey, maybe this hip hop stuff, maybe this rap stuff is okay. That's what I'm thinking.
It's all white with me.
Yeah.
Let's see what the answer is. I might have thrown you a bit of a curveball in this first one, but the actual answer was Run DMC with Rockbox in 1984,
really?
Which predated. It predated the Beastie Boys, because License to Ill was like 86.
I just wouldn't have thought that MTV would have played it. I knew that Run DMC was around first. I just wouldn't have thought that they would have got MTV airplay before the Beastie Boys. Wow, that one surprised me.
It's interesting too. The Funky 4+1 were the first hip hop group to appear on national television. They did Saturday Night Live early on. Yeah, so they were the first to appear on TV. But yeah, it was Run DMC. Nonetheless, we're talking about videos, music videos. You are Video Dave. It's funny. I think the last time we saw each other, we were at our friend Marcela Arguello's stand-up comedy release party.
Yeah.
For her HBO special, or her Max special, I guess we would call it now, for reasons unknown to any of us. And I remember I was trying to introduce you to someone, and I was like, yeah, this is Video Dave. He, I know him through Mike Eagle. He's kind of like his VJ. And you very quickly, this has haunted me. This is like one of those like cringe regret moments. Like I think about this like at least once a week. You very quickly were like, actually, I'm not a VJ. And I instantly felt like, why did I fuck up this guy's introduction? But you are a video controller, I guess.
Yeah, that works. And no offense, like that VJ thing, it's just everybody says that, and I think I'm so far away from a VJ that it confuses me, but then I guess people don't have another word for what I'm doing, and maybe from where they're standing, I'm not that far away from a VJ at all. So it's like I can't get mad at people for saying it, but it's just like it's one of those things. I'm like, VJ? Of course I'm not a VJ. Like, I think a VJ is that guy in a bowling alley who's playing Macarena. That's a VJ.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting, because I know guys who maybe like 10, 15 years ago were kind of on the edge, like when like the ability to cut and scratch and loop on video was kind of like on the forefront. They were doing that, and I want to say that they self-identified as VJ.
Yeah, and that is actually dope, and I kind of like that, and I've seen it maybe twice. Like that, like where somebody was just being a regular DJ, but there were screens up and they were synced up and the video was playing. And this was a real DJ who was fucking scratching, and like the shit was dope. I've seen that once or twice and it's dope. But what I've seen a lot is like terrible Macarena at a bowling alley, or a bad quinceañera. Like, I don't even want to call out quinceañeras, but like a bad one. And it's like, oh wow, this guy is like, hey, I'm VJ Mike, and it's like, oh no, VJ is bad. But the guys who were actually DJs and like figured out the technology and had that going on, thumbs up to them. That shit was dope. I've seen, but it wasn't that popular for me. I only saw it a few times, unfortunately.
But you do something very interesting with video in the in the landscape of live performances, you do it with Mike Eagle. I've seen you guys perform a bunch. Like what was the path to you even doing that? I know you also have like a background in television production.
Right.
And so I'm kind of curious like what the origin story was for what people would know of you when they see you now like performing on a stage.
Okay. I guess first origin story is that I was making beats in college, and then I switched my major to radio and TV. And when I started editing, like my mind was like, oh, this is the same. Like editing film and making beats, because I was using Acid 4.0. It was like the exact same layout. Like I was like, oh, it's the same thing. Cool. Which synced up with my childhood and always just kind of seeing video and audio, like everything coming from the TV was the same. And when I'd listen to the radio, I'd kind of make it up in my, like I'd see it if it wasn't in front of me. Like they're just kind of very similar. So that's like the beginning of it. But then when I saw Open Mike perform, like, because me and Mike were friends in college, but then, we stopped being in contact like everyone else did after college for many years.
Out.
Huge falling out.
Right?
Fight, broken noses, ugly. Nah. But, just like before social media, like after college, you just lost touch with all your friends. Like what was going to happen? Your campus phones didn't work anymore and shit. Like that was it. Like, I think I didn't get my first cell phone. Well, I had a cell phone in college, my last year of college, and then I lost it or whatever because it wasn't very important. It was like this thing I had nobody used. And then like I got another cell phone a year later, and that was it. I didn't have Mike's number. I didn't have anyone's number. And I wasn't using MySpace like that. So whatever. We lost touch. Then we got back in contact, and I went to go see a show in New York, and he was like controlling his music with that pad shit. And at that point, I wasn't very active in music at all. I was living in New York, but I wasn't very active. I was just doing a little bit of shit, going open mics. But I saw him using that beat control, and I'm like, that's the shit. Then years later, me and Mike start working on videos, and he's like, yo, if you came on tour with me, what would you do? And I was like, I would operate, and I had no idea about the software. I was like, I'd operate video the way you operate your music. Like have videos and play them the way you play your music. And then I found, like, that was just what I said without knowing anything. And he was like, that's cool. And then I had to look into it and find the software and figure it out. Like other people had the idea, but when I said it, it was a novel idea.
Complete bluff. Like just like, oh, that would be cool. Yeah. Like I don't know the roadmap to get there, but that's what I would do.
I had gone to Tame Impala in New York, and I had also gone to Depeche Mode in New York, and they were very different visual sets that they had. But Tame Impala's show was all about visuals, like trippy visuals. Then Depeche Mode, like their stage, the floor of their stage was made of video screens, and it was like the floor and the wall. It was incredible. And I remembered those two shows, and then I saw this video version of the Jay Dilla album that somebody made that I still watch.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I still have it. I saved the file. I like watch it all the time.
Right. I play it around the world. Like when we go on tour, I play that as like the opening music while we're still backstage. Just to like give people a fucking treat because it's one of the dopest things ever. So
because it's not on YouTube anymore. I think that they took it down.
Dude,
right?
I looked for it for years. You wouldn't believe the story. Like I saw it one day and I was like, that was the most amazing thing I ever seen. I should record that. And I went back and it was already gone. And I was like, oh shit. And then it took me like a year and a half. And I finally found it one day and I recorded it and then it was gone.
It's like such an anomaly in the age of having access to everything that we take for granted now. But that reminds me of like pre-internet, pre-digital age where like if you were in a record store or a video store or a bookstore and you saw a piece of media that like, yo, if you don't pick it up now, it might not be there the next time you come back. So you better grab this. And like, it's almost
incredible
a foreign
for the internet
now.
age. I had a version of it that was just a video for years because I couldn't find it. And then I found it again and now I got it and I'll never lose it. Like I've got it on all my devices. I'm such a weirdo. But that's what brought me to what I do with Mike. That video, that Jay Dilla video, the Depeche Mode show, the Tame Impala show, and Mike playing his beats on stage. Those things, I was like, I can do that with video. And that's what I do while Mike's rapping. That's what I do. During my set, I do a whole different thing. But Mike's set, that's what I do.
Right. No, it's really dynamic and it's cool. I also like that story because asked me what I was doing my freshman year of college. I was making beats. And then what did I do when I had to pick a major? I majored in radio and television production. So we are...
Weren't they the same thing? Like Like, oh,
Yeah.
like the software, the way that they work, you're like, oh, this is the same shit. Awesome.
Well, it was crazy because I was the last class in the program that was taught how to use tape machines, and it was part of the curriculum. But they were also kind of telling us, like, just so you know, like, this will likely not be in any of your future. Like, you're probably not going to be really editing on tape. And I remember thinking, like, so why the fuck are we doing this then? Like, you know, I understand like some of the principles were the same, and you know, like editing is editing. But I remember having that thought.
But it's cool to know.
You know, yeah, it's definitely cool, and it gives you an appreciation, you know, for it. And I've sort of had a interesting relationship and journey as it relates to television and music, sort of hopping between the two, as I know you have as well. So it's kindred spirits here.
That's what happened with video editing. Like my first semester was on the fucking wheels and like VHS cassettes and wheels, and then like the next semester, like, hey, you're never gonna use this again. And that's when they taught us what's it called? Avid. Like they're like, we've got this Avid. And that was, I don't know, that was maybe 2000, but like it was like from one semester to the next, like, this is how you edit. And then the next semester, like, we're never touching those again. This is the future. And I was like, this is just like making beats. I'm great at this.
Amazing. All right, we're gonna move on to our second question. Video Dave, question number 2. Which of these artists has never released an album on record label Fake 4? Is it Bus Driver, Homeboy Sandman, Micah 9, or Open Mike Eagle? Which of these artists has never released an album on Fake 4?
Oh, man. Well,
talk it out.
You know, I think I know the answer, but then I'm like, man, I never checked the labels. But see, all of these, you got 4 artists on here, and 3 of them are super prolific as far as I've been able to tell. Well, I can't say Bus Driver's super prolific. I don't know how many albums Bus Driver has. I know Homeboy Sandman has an album for every time I could think of it, for every letter in his name. He has
an album that he put out before we started recording this, and by the time we're done, there will be another
one. Homeboy Sandman got 2 albums for every letter in his name, and they're all fucking dope. It's how does he do it?
Yeah, he's great.
Micah 9 is a staple. Micah 9 is prolific with his music and it makes sense that Micah 9 at some point would have been like, yeah, you know, Fake 4, why not? Because Micah 9 could make his records with whoever, I believe. So why not jump into the Fake 4 bus? And Fake 4 loves to work with people. Fake 4 is prolific. But I don't believe that any of Open Mike's albums are on Fake 4. I've been working with Mike for a while. I've seen his albums. My album's about to come out on Fake 4. Mike would have said, like, it would have just been said, oh yeah, that's dope, because I did one, you know, like, he knows. It would have been said specifically that we're album brothers. Hey, album brother, you watch I Think You Should Leave?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it would one of us would have said it if we were album brothers. And we're only album brothers from because I put out a record on Mike's label, but
sure,
I don't think because of Fake 4 he would have said it. So I'm gonna have to say D. Mike has not released an album on Fake 4.
Okay, I enjoyed the reasoning on all that. You know, we joked about you getting into a huge brawl with Mike at the end of college, and that's why you didn't talk. And obviously, that was all said in jest. But I feel like now you guys might get into an actual scrap because the following artists have put out albums on Fake 4.
Oh, Animal Hospital.
Open Mike Eagle put out Animal Hospital on Fake 4. Micah 9 put out the 1969 album. Bus Driver put out an album called Bows and Arrows. Homeboy Sandman has not put out an album on Fake 4. Yeah.
Wow.
Dave, I was, you know.
Too wrong. I was trying to get every answer right. There goes my 300. Jesus.
Well, we're having a good time, which is what's important. And I don't want to dwell on the failures here because these are all success stories.
I'm going to dwell on them for the days. Not necessarily.
Hey, look, just internalize it now and then just, you know, unpack it later. Maybe at night, you know, when you're by yourself, best time to deal with
I didn't know Animal Hospital was on Fake 4.
It was, but what I want to know is how did the relationship with you and Fake 4 come to be? Because I know it wasn't through Mike Eagle. Now, like we know that he's been hoarding the information. He's just like, I'm not telling you anything about my past records.
I can't believe Mike didn't call me album brother. I'm hey album brother. That's what I'm calling him next time I see him. Hey album brother.
And he's gonna be like, "What?" And you're gonna be like, "Yeah, you don't know what the fuck I'm talking
Yep.
about because you're hiding your past from me. I thought we were cool, bro."
Um, Me and Chesky met out on the road. I was on tour with Getty. Like Getty invited me on tour with him in Germany. It was like Germany plus Czech Republic and Slovakia, and very interesting to me. Like I'm like, yeah, I want to go on this tour, Getty. Let's do it. Where I was doing video for him, slightly different, like not playing it the same way I play it for Mike. I had videos. I made a video for every song with Getty, and I'll just play the video, like not play along the way I play Mike's videos live. But and I was also backing him up on stage, and it was just a fun tour. But I think it was like the second or third day, because Getty's not the kind of guy who tells you everything. Like he tells you what you need to know, basically.
Like Open Mike Eagle in his past records.
Exactly. A lot of secrets. But no, Getty just like he didn't tell me that part of this tour was going to be with this guy Chesky. Like I was like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm gonna come out on tour with you in Europe. Let's do it. And I flew out there and we're chilling for a few days, and then all of a sudden there's like this guy, and we met him at one of the shows, and it's like, yeah, this is Chesky. I'm like, okay, cool. I say, what's up to Chesky? And then like Getty plays, and then Chesky goes up on stage. Like I didn't know I just didn't know Chesky, and Chesky didn't know me. Like
right.
And I'm just like, wait, this dude is about to be up on stage. Like, oh, okay, cool. And then after the show, it's like, yeah, no, we're doing the rest of the tour with him. And I'm like, oh, like I had no clue that it was like a Chesky tour. So, but it was the shit. So then we're traveling all around Germany. We're going to Czech Republic. We're going to Slovakia, like 3 cities in Czech Republic and 3 cities in Slovakia. And I'm telling you, everywhere we went, people knew Chesky's name. The shit was out of control. I'm like, I didn't know Chesky. Oh, you snooze, you lose, dog. Everybody knows this guy. And it was just an incredible fucking time. It was man, it was just great. We went on this tour. We were partying every night, like just laughing, joking, doing music, traveling countries where I couldn't even understand what the fuck I'm seeing on signs. It's just great. It's a really great adventure that we had, and like Chessie's the man. That's my homie. And then after that, we just became homies, and like I've stayed at his spots, he stayed at my spot. Every time we're in the same city, we try to link up. That's my man's name.
Yeah, and so when it came time to actually putting out an album, I assume that you just sort of built off that friendship, that relationship.
I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad to say, but like one time I saw Chesky and I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm working on an album with Controller 7. He's like, word, we'll put that out. Like he didn't hear a song, you know? Like he was just like, yo, we'll put that out. You're working on an album with Controller 7? I'm with it. And I was like, oh yeah?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you know, a few months later, just here and there, we'd check in, we'd talk to each other, and it would always just be like, yo, what's up with the album? And I'm like, yeah, you know, we're still working. You know, you need to hear something? He's like, and it was never like, I need to hear it. No vetting process. Just like, yeah, just let me know when you're done with this Controller 7 album. Like, I want to be in on that. And, you know, I hope he was right. Like, I was hyped.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a vote of confidence, and that's great. We're going to talk more about the album and how that came to be as we move along in our game. Video Dave, we are on to question number 3.
I'm on to Four Loko number 2.
Oh, see, that's part of the process here. LL Cool J, by the way, Video Dave is a proud sponsor and endorsee of Four Loko. It's been solidified. He started the episode before we started rolling. He was like, yeah, I don't want people to know about Four Loko. And now you just went out of your way to shout out Four Loko.
No, I was just saying I'm drinking my second drink. I'm still maintaining that this shit tastes pretty bad. And
it's a complicated
bad meaning bad,
endorsement.
Not bad meaning good.
Speaking of bad, we have LL Cool J here. LL Cool J is seen wearing a hat on all of his album covers except for this one. Is it Bigger and Deafer, Mama Said Knock You Out, Mr. Smith, or Walking with a Panther? There is one album where we cannot confirm that he is wearing a hat, and which one would that be?
That's a hilarious question because you know he was still wearing a hat. but I don't think you could. There's one that you can't confirm it because he's just talking to a microphone. And is the question is that Mr. Smith? It has to be. That's the most personal one. That's the one where the shot would just be his mouth. I feel like I could see it, where it's just him talking to a mic, and that's the only one you can't be like, well, he's definitely wearing a hat. But he's definitely. Am I wrong?
Well,
you don't give those kind of clues.
I can't give those kind of clues, but I just we need to identify what the albums are. I think like that's the best way to sort of go about
walking with a panther. Like, is he not walking with a panther on the cover of the album?
Yeah, I mean, he went abstract with some of his song titles in the past, but I feel like, I don't think I'm giving away too much to say that the Walking with the Panther album is that's semi-literal.
That's him walking with the panther. I know about that. So, like, he's got a hat on because he's walking with the panther. You see his whole body. He's wearing a hat. Bigger and Deafer. Do I remember the album cover for Bigger and Deafer specifically?
Are you a big LL fan? Like, what's your relationship with the music of LL?
I mean, LL's a staple, and he's always been there, and he's a great. There's no denying any of that. I wasn't like he wasn't what I was after. You know what I mean? Right. So it's not like Tribe. I had every single one of theirs, labeled, and I know the order of all the songs. LL wasn't that for me, but LL was, always there and always dope. Like LL started when he was a child and never stopped, and it's still dope. Like, and what he did to Cannabis isn't even right. It's not fair. I think it was a little bit mean, to be honest, but he demolished him.
A bit mean-spirited, yes.
Yeah, it was just like, man, you didn't have to do it that bad, L. All he did was say he wanted to borrow your mic. Damn. But some motherfuckers say don't say my name, and you gotta know. You gotta know. But Mama Said Knock You Out. I feel like that's also, you see his full body, and he's wearing a bucket, I think. I feel like it has to be, or is Mr. Smith, is it black and white? Is Mr. Smith a black and white album cover?
It's not. I'll give you a clue here. It's either black and white or it's like a hue where it's not full color for sure.
Right.
So you're kind of in between Mama Said Knock You Out and Mr. Smith, it sounds like, or? No,
I know it's not Walking with the Panther. I don't think it's Mama Said Knock You Out.
I could have made this really easy and just been like, which album has a panther on it?
Well, yeah, no. See, and now I'm dragging the whole question part out, and I'm 0 for 2 now. So now I'm just feeling, I got the anxieties going. Let's go with Mr. Smith. That was my first thought, but he might be wearing one of these little like stock. Mr. Smith, see Mr. Smith.
All right, here we go. We're going to see the answer right here in front of us. The answer was Mama Said Knock You Out. As we can see, he's wearing the bucket on Bad, on Bigger and Deffer.
Mr. Smith, he got that damn visor on, you.
He's got the visor on.
Bastard.
And look,
the
thing about the Mama Said Knock You Out album cover is that the top of his head is cropped off. So we're really seeing his hands and his ring and his like bare chest with the chain around it.
Yeah.
We see we don't actually even see LL's eyes. They're like kind of cut off. He's almost certainly wearing a hat, but we cannot.
He's
confirm
definitely
that
wearing a hat, but yeah, we can't confirm it. So it's certainly fair. There was no cheating that happened.
There was no cheating. 0 for 3, Dave, but I have to say I'm having a great time, and I hope you are.
I mean,
too.
I'm having fun, but I hate getting answers wrong, and the public's gonna know.
The public's gonna know, but you have so many other great things that the public will also know about you. And one of those things I want to talk to you about is illest hat game in the game.
Oh.
Like where did okay, so for those who don't know, like if you follow Video Dave on social media, or if you've been to any of the shows that he does, or if you've ever just seen this man, like if you're watching this right now, you're seeing that he's wearing a hat right now. You make hats.
Yeah.
And I mean, as someone who I'm a very creative person, I like to make a lot of things, but I am terrible with anything like with my literal hands, like making things. If somebody asks me to like cut a straight line, I start to get anxiety. Like I'm gonna mess this up. Where does the garment and like sort of hat game fit into the Video Dave story?
I started I mean, this is all part of the story. I put out a song a few weeks ago about addressing this. I, I mean, honestly, it goes back. I've been making my own clothes for many, many years. Like when I think about it, even since as kids, me and my brother used to try to customize some clothes. And then in college, I used to draw on my clothes. And Miami, I used to spray paint my clothes and spray paint my shoes. And like I got intricate with it, honestly. Um, but I never considered that to be anything. I didn't consider this to be anything for a while. But anyway, the sewing shit started with a kid I know, and it was her birthday, and I bought her this kit to make stuffed animals because that was her request in a bookstore. I'm like, hey, what do you want? Say, hey, I want that. It's like a little kit that said so many animals. And I was like, all right, here you go, kid. Get out of here. Happy birthday. And then she's like, so we go back home. And she's like, okay, make me an animal. And I'm like, well, no, no, no.
This wasn't part of the deal,
Right,
kid.
like I thought you'd make these with your mom or your grandma, and she's like, no, I want you to make it. And I'm like, oh fuck. So then I made her the animal, and then she's like, oh yeah, make the rest of them. And I'm like, wait, no. But it's a kid and it's her birthday. Literally, it's the day of her birthday, and I'm just like, all right, great. So then I spent like the rest of the weekend. I'm like visiting her parents are like some of my best friends. So I'm visiting my friends, and it's their child who I'm very fond of. It's her birthday. And I'm like, okay. So I make her all these stuffed animals for her birthday. It's like 13 animals. I spend the whole weekend sewing these small little intricate stuffed animals and shit just from the kit. And I'm like, oh. And when I go home at the end of the weekend, I was like, oh, what? Like, it's like my hands were still kind of itching for it. And I was just like, oh, that was fun. I actually enjoyed that. So I bought the same kit. Like I go to the bookstore and I buy this little animal kit for myself, and I throw it in my backpack and use it very sparingly over the next like 2 years. Like make a few things, but it's just like here or there. Every once in a while, I'll remember it, pull it out, make something, make usually one of the animals. Okay, that was fun. Give it away to someone, whatever. And then during lockdown, when I had nothing to do, I pulled the kit out and I started making animals. And I happened to maybe not be on LSD and started stitching all crazy. And like after that, I was like, oh shit, like that was fun. Like it was that first time, but now I found a new way into it. And then from there, it just turned into a thing I did constantly. And then from there, eventually it turned into getting tired of wearing Cubs hats and being like, oh man, let me put one of these patches I made on a hat. And then I started turning into a hat dude and like a hat maker. So now, yeah.
Absolute hat maker, and I love the style of them. I love how customizable. Like when I saw you at that event for Marcella, you made her a hat. Did you make her a hat, or was it?
Yeah, yeah.
It was like,
I made her a hat of her.
It was a hat of her. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of the other ones you've done, like dedicated to artists. It's just so cool. And what I love about it too is like not only is it really fresh, but it's also such a, at least in the circles and the spaces that like I am often in, I don't see anybody else doing that. Obviously there are people that make their own hats, like, but like in like the music slash like hip hop space, I can't think of anybody who does anything remotely close to that. So I think that's so cool to see.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I've mixed it into the music now, but it wasn't about, I don't know. It was just something to do. Like I needed something to do. I was sitting there in lockdown and I had some felt and needles and thread, and it was like, and the drugs let me know that I can make anything. Like I had been just making the animals from this kit, and that would be like cool to do something with my hands. And then every once in a while I'd make something else, but it was always like in that same vein where like I was just thinking about it in a very limited way. And then when I just happened to do it and get kind of crazy with it, then I just started making all kind of shit where I got to the point that now it's not even, it's nothing. It's just designs.
How long does it take you to make a hat? Like from once you have the idea for it, but the idea is just in your head, like what is like the sort of production time on making a hat?
If it's something like I'll make album covers. I've made a Tribe Called Quest album cover that I gave to, well, Mike has. There was, I don't want to say gave, but anyway, things are for sale if you hit open Video Dave in the right attitude. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, maybe the time it takes to make a hat. Like if I have an idea where I want to make the Midnight Marauders album cover and put it on a hat, that'll take me from thought to end probably 13 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would have no idea. You could have told me like 4 hours or like 6 days. And
but
like, either of those
like 2 days probably, but like,
yeah,
I don't, when I get into it, I get kind of obsessive. Like I could work for 4 or 5 hours straight, but then it's like, okay. And then the next day, 5 hours. Okay. And then a third day, maybe 5 hours. Like my most intricate hats maybe have been 3-day process of like, 15, 18 hours for a hat.
You know what I appreciate about that too? Like I find in a time where I find that all of my pastimes, interests, and hobbies all revolve around screens. I imagine it must be kind of cool to be able to do something that's productive that you love doing and you are not tethered to any sort of electronic device to do it. Like, how people I've heard that like some people enjoy just recreationally, like adults coloring, because it's just like there's a process, it's pattern, it's repetition, and you're kind of able to just focus on something. And I would infer that there must be a component of that in the making of the crafting of a hat like that.
I suppose there is. It's not really the thought behind it or the way, like, because a lot of times I'm doing it and I'll have something else playing. Sometimes I'm annoyed because I kind of want to be watching this movie, but I find myself like compelled to sew, and I'm like sewing and I'm missing part of the show, and it's like, it's weird because it's like it annoys me that I'm like, oh man, I'm missing the show, but I can't stop the sewing because like I want to finish this thing that I started. Like this thing took me probably 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh wow! And so that's like a multicolor sort of.
It's like the color spectrum
for those who, Yeah.
It's the color spectrum. Like,
wow.
Yeah, I just started because I had some blues, and then I was like, oh, I got some purple, and then everything just happens. It's like I sit there and I just work on shit. And a lot of times I don't necessarily plan it, especially with this new way I do things where it's just scraps instead of making images.
Yeah.
It's just making shit.
Well, you mentioned Tribe earlier, and that's a good segue into the final question in our first round. Here we go. Question number 4. A member of this group is credited for doing scratches on one song from a Tribe Called Quest 1996 album, Beats, Rhymes, and Life. Is it a member from the group Black Sheep, De La Soul, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, or Jungle Brothers?
Those are all very, very plausible and would all make sense. See, yeah, this is a great question. It annoyed me immediately because I'm like, I don't know this offhand. And like, I love this album. And there are some people who are huge Tribe Called Quest fans that don't think this album adds up. And, people know that as like the general idea. Like everyone knows that people think Beats and Rhymes and Life isn't the greatest Tribe album. But then I actually know people who and we get into it and I'm like, yo, Beats, Rhymes, and Life. I mean, it's a top tier album.
I like this album. This is an album I've had a discussion with people before about where for a lot of people, they didn't know that this album was maligned until they had steady access to the internet and found people talking about that. Whereas like, yeah, look, it's not held in the same regard as the first 3 albums. Nobody is ever really contesting that. I haven't met anybody who's like, the best one though is Beats, Rhymes, and Life. But,
no, not best, but it's right there. It's not.
I agree.
Another tier.
It is my 4th favorite Tribe album. Yeah, and maybe on a certain day, depending on how the wind blows, sometimes it's my 3rd. Sometimes it is my 3rd. There is times where I place it slightly ahead of the first album.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm okay with that. Like that's the exact same mental game. Like because the People's Instinctive Travels is fucking excellent. It's beautiful. It's great. Sometimes it's not my favorite thing as an album.
Also, what flavor do you want? Do you want like late 80s Native Tongues sound, or do you want some crazy JD, production and like a little bit darker stuff?
Right.
You're going to go 2 different places. So,
and the Love Movement certainly came around, and now I really do love the Love Movement. But the Love Movement is not inherently better than this, which some people try to say. I don't agree with
No,
that.
no, I don't
I
agree.
don't agree
I
with
think
that.
there's a couple songs on the Love Movement that I think are like amongst Tribe's best. And we did a Making Illmatic episode where me and Midas and Damone Dem1 from Dad Bod Rap Pod, we trimmed the Love Movement down to 10, and that was an interesting exercise in revisiting the album. But yeah, no, Love Movement is not better than Beats, Rhymes, and Life. So Dave, which member of this group scratched on one song on a Beats, Rhymes, and Life? Was it somebody from Black Sheep, De La Soul, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, or the Jungle Brothers?
I don't know. I don't know at all. And I'm going to say the answer that I want to be true because I think it's the best DJ. And that would be C.
He says C. The answer is on the song The Hop on Beats, Rhymes, and Life. The cuts are credited to Maceo from De La Soul.
Oh, and I love that song.
It's a great song. So, Dave, I put this question in because, you know, this album was pretty formative for me. And in listening to your album, I feel like there's a couple Beats, Rhymes, and Life references that you make in the album, whether lyrically, there's a couple of like sort of like homages to Q-Tip lyrics from this album. We kind of have already talked about it a little bit on the front end of this question, but like, tell me about Beats, Rhymes, and Life to you.
I mean, it's just a great album. That was, even because we just talked about it, even more than how much I like the album, that when it came out is my best time for, you know, feeling like I was the shit. And like, you know, it was senior year of high school, and me and my friends, and we thought we were so cool, and we're in each other's cars, and we're on the basketball team, and like, you know, like it was just so great. And we were listening to Beats, Rhymes, and Life, and we were listening to Stakes is High, like in my friends' cars. And like that's just like the soundtrack for the perfect soundtrack of those years, you know, like whether or not it was the greatest or not, it's like, oh, that was that time. That was one of the best times. So that's what that album for me is just like. It's right in that mix of like the time it came out was the year I was graduating high school and was finally made the basketball team because I got cut for 2 years, and then senior year I finally made that motherfucker. And you know, we're listening to these albums before the game on Friday, like to get hype, like just great memories.
You harnessed your mind power and it channeled into the hop for you to hop onto the
I
court.
had hops.
So
I had hops.
You had hops.
That's
so
one thing I had. I wasn't that good.
Right, but you know what? You kept it moving to the KIM. So, you know, that was something you were able to do.
Yep.
So spin-off, and maybe this is like a teaser to when we have you back, because I feel like it would be great if we did a Making Illmatic with you on Beats, Rhymes, and Life. And like the sort of premise of that show is we evaluate the albums and try to improve them. So judging by the mic system of the source, the 5 mic system, how many mics do you give Beats, Rhymes, and Life in its current state?
4.5.
4.5. Okay. So you know what? I'm gonna plant the seed now. We'll work out the details. I think we have to reconvene and do this album, and it's really fun when you love an album because we're having you sacrifice a couple children on it.
Yeah.
I think there's like 14 or 15 songs on Beats, Rhymes, and Life.
Yeah.
So 4 got to go, and yeah, it'll be interesting, especially with Midas, who has a very different relationship to Tribe than you and I do. Because like I know you love Tribe. Tribe is my favorite fucking group. Midas was like aware of Tribe, and like I respect Midas's like opinion on all things music, but like he has a completely different relationship, and like sometimes it makes my skin crawl, but it makes for great like it makes for great podcasting.
I'm with it.
All right, well, we are moving on. Speaking of Tribe, we are now moving on to our second round, and the second round is called Check the Rhyme. This is all based on lyrics and sort of song title questions. Here's the first one. According to a song title on 2003 album Politics of the Business, how much money does Chub Rock owe Prince Paul? Is it $50, $700, $2,200, or $5,000? Oh, man.
2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2,200. 2 Jesus, see, these are great, and I don't know the exact amount of money, but yo, Prince Paul done talked about this in front of me and in the same room, and I was ready to fall off my chair laughing. Prince Paul is the funniest dude. He's the greatest. It must be 5,000. Chubb Rock, pay me my $5,000. It has to be because that sounds the best too. Let's go with D. Prince Paul's the man. Shout out Prince Paul.
Shout out to Prince Paul. Dave, I think we got to lean into this as a bit because, like, I know these are all, and I was trying not to go hard, but there's no other way to say this. You're getting all of these wrong.
I'm terrible
at
this.
It was $2,200 is the name of the that he references on Politics of the Business.
That shit is the funniest shit. Like I didn't know that song to keep it 100. I didn't know that song. And
it's got Doom on it. It's got Doom and Chubb Rock on the album. Yeah.
Like I didn't know much about the psychoanalysis. That's from the Psychoanalysis album.
Politics of the Business.
Politics of the Biz. And I didn't know much about Politics of Biz or Psychoanalysis. Now, Prince Among Thieves is one of my favorite albums of all time. I've listened to that 1.5 million times. I'm a very weird guy, so I could listen to an album and not necessarily be like, this is great. That doesn't mean I'm going to go listen to all the other ones. Like I was very much about record store, especially back then. Like we're talking about, for me, I'm talking about 98, 99, 2000, 2001. Those were my years in college where I was going to the record store and just building my collection. And I used to have quite the collection. I had like the CD books and like,
oh yeah,
hundreds of CDs that I would literally bring around with me everywhere I went. So people are like, "What's in that backpack?" And hundreds of CDs and
just in case,
just in case. And like, was I a DJ? Like, did I also have a mixer? No. I just have albums to play. What a fucking weirdo. But I had Prince Among Thieves, and I listened to it all the time. But did I buy Psychoanalysis? Did I buy Politics of the Biz? I didn't.
I mean, look, to be fair, Prince Among Thieves, I think, is the most digestible and like probably the more popular one. These other ones are Paul in every sense of the word, in which they are quirky,
insane.
Cool, insane, kind of like, hey, like if you could only bring 500 CDs with you everywhere you went, there might be less uses for Politics of the Business as you ventured out into the world, because you had to be in a specific sort of mindset to want to listen to that or to Psychoanalysis.
No, lucky for me, I was actually heard Paul talk about these albums. Then I went and listened to them after I heard him talk about them. I'm like, oh my God, but they're not that album, unfortunately, is not one of the albums that's in my core.
So I heard that this album that you have done with Controller 7 was sort of inspired by a remark that Prince Paul made about you, where he sort of said that like you would have been around, if you had been around at the time, you would have totally fit in with the Native Tongues collective and crew.
Yeah, but the way that's true. Paul said that, and that is part of the thoughts I had making the album. But I do want to clarify, but that the way Paul was making that statement was like anybody could have been in the crew. Like if you were like around, and like the words he was saying was like, if you were around us and you were cool, like if you were friends with us and you were around, then you were part of it. Like he was,
got it,
because we were at, like, Mike had basically asked him the question of like who was in or who wasn't in the crew, right. And he was like,
and just to zoom out, this was because Mike did the first season of What Had Happened Was with Prince Paul, and you were there when they were.
I was there shooting, and I shot all the episodes of, and I still have that footage of that first season. That it wasn't meant for broadcast, basically, but I was there and I shot it all. So like this was just a conversation that was had, and I don't know if it made the podcast or not. So it's like it might not be in the podcast, but it was just something that was said. And it was like, it really, like, I want to be clear, like, it was really along the lines of, like, anyone who was friends with any of us and was around at the time was basically, like, Native Tongues. It wasn't.
It's not like he was personally anointing you as, like, Dave, if only you had been there could have been, another Jungle Brother. Like, it was more so the philosophy of what the collective was and the openness of that whole crew.
Exactly. Exactly. But he said the words. Video Dave, open mic. You guys would have been part of Native Tongues. And I heard that and I was like, ding, 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 ding.
And then you walked to like a sandwich shop with him, and like he was paying for a sandwich, and he said that to the cashier. As he was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you're pretty cool. You would have been a native tongue."
You know what I mean? Right. So it's like I 100% knew what he was saying at the time, but still those words just like my
Well, it sparked that.
Yeah.
It sparked that idea and that inspiration.
Yeah,
for
my
you.
ears couldn't let go of like those words coming out of his mouth in that sequence. Open mic, Video Dave, you would have been in Native Tongues. I've been like, what? So like that was kind of like, yeah, this imaginary world. So for me, it builds into later an imaginary world of like, this is the album, this is my submission, right? Because despite what Paul clearly said, Native Tongues is this very tight collective that you have to submit an album to, and they all judge it and decide whether you're in or not. And this is my submission, you know?
Yeah. And like, in what ways did the native tongues aesthetic sort of imprint on how you made this album versus any other album that you've made in the past? Like, what does it mean when you make your native tongues album?
There was part of it in the beat selection where I was just listening for beats that made me feel the way that some of those beats made me feel. Where I'm like, oh, this got a nice bounce to it. This has the elements. It's like a fun beat. Paul was talking about how when him and Dan were working on Handsome Boy Modeling School, that they would sit there and speak to each other and call shit handsome. Like, oh, is that? And I'm pretty sure that made the podcast, so I'm not revealing anything. But it's like, oh, listen to this. Is this handsome? That's handsome. Let's sample that. And like that was like a language, and they never necessarily defined to each other what handsome was, but like that was just what they did. So like me and Seven didn't have that. We didn't have a language for it, and I didn't even have a language for it. But in my mind, there was just like this: is this that?
It's like a compass, almost like an internal compass. That was like, does this point in that direction?
Yeah, and some of the beats, you know, very specifically, one of the ones that's one of Seven's favorites, and it's a great song. You Tell Me, with the prompts and like I have to respond to prompts. Like that was something that he sent to me. He was like, yo, I think this will be a good beat. And I heard it and I didn't really want to do it. Like I was like, this is too hard. There's interruptions. What am I going to say to this stuff? But because in my mind, I was like, and it was like, yeah, this is Paul though. This is the kind of thing Prince Paul would do. Like what would Paul do was kind of this. And like that song, even though I didn't want to do it, I was like, oh, Paul would do a song like this where it's a cool beat. Like I like the beat, but like those interruptions, those prompts, I'm like, yo, I'm trying to rap here. And you've got this voice saying things. And it was like, no, but Paul would do something like that. So that like, that's one that was very specifically for me, kind of around that principle. And it wasn't a specific thing we laid out, but it was in my mind of like, what would Paul do? Like, yeah, that's something Paul would do. So even though I didn't want to do that song, it was something Paul would do. So I did the song and I love the song. Like, I think it came out well. I think it worked, but I would have been inclined to throw it away from the beginning if I wouldn't have been trying to do Paul type shit.
I was gonna ask what that WWPD tattoo on your arm stood for, but now it all
now
makes
you
sense.
get it.
So that, I was like, just wait, it'll reveal itself. It'll be fine. Well, we're talking about Prince Paul. You can't talk about Prince Paul without talking about the legacy of De La Soul, and we got another De La question coming up.
Okay, I gotta get
this
one.
De La Soul song is the only single in their catalog. Their only single in their catalog that is a Dave solo song. Is it I Know, It's So Easy, Pain, or Shopping Bags?
You've done this to me. It's definitely not It's So Easy. That's not a Dave solo song, and everyone knows that. That's the greatest. That's one of my favorite De La songs of all time. It's hard to pick a favorite De La song. But
yeah, I mean, and obviously there's been so much, it's been great to sort of see them get their shine, like there's been so much, there's so much of a renaissance, a De La Renaissance that's been happening right now.
Yeah, man, under the worst circumstances to bring it on, but yes,
so bittersweet.
And it was coming anyway. Like, certainly, yeah, it was coming anyway. They were having a renaissance. It was on its way, and
right.
It's not. It's so easy. It's not. I know. I don't know if it's paint or shopping bags. I'm trying to.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna throw in, you because you mentioned it earlier. I think you should leave. I want to drop in the the very famous meme now. You sure about that, bro? You sure about that?
You sure about that's that? Not why? Is it I know?
You sure about that? Well, I'm not saying which one it is, but you can infer that it's one of the two that you mentioned.
Then it's I know. The answer is A, I know, because it definitely ain't It's So Easy. That has more than Dave on it. This is not all Dave. You're not telling me this is all Dave.
Fell in love with this fish who got caught in my mesh. Yo, she burned my scene up like David Koresh. I guess a diamond ain't nothing but a rock with a name. I guess love ain't nothing but emotion and game. It's the lesson well learned, cause praise is well due.
It's all Dave, bro.
You're lying to me.
Look, I got so scared that I just had to like fact check it while I was on with you, because I'm like 95% sure, and then like, yeah, there's no pause verse on this.
Holy,
song.
That might be one of my favorite of all of theirs, and I didn't know. I didn't even know. I was on the internet crying to this song. Get out of here! Oh, well, man,
now you know why you were crying, because it was so potently Dave. It was all Dave.
That's wow. Maybe I shouldn't have drank these Four Locos. I'm getting all these answers wrong. This is so embarrassing.
No, I think now it's a bit like we're leaning into it. It's like this is even if we told people like no, like this was legit.
Worst like, no, guess like, ever. Obviously. It's the Four Loco. No, blame it on the alcohol. Who said that? T-Pain? Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
T-Pain. Thank you, T.
We're gonna move on to the next, Dave.
The shame. The shame.
We got to keep it moving.
The shame.
All right. Not track, but question number 7. According to the opening line in his 2002 song "Excuse You," MC Paul Barman takes influence from this duo. Is it Hall and Oates, Laurel and Hardy, MF Doom and Jeff Koons, or David Wayne and Big Daddy Kane? You got Paul on the album.
I know. I know. That's what's making all of this so terrible. It's just like I don't know anything.
This is a nightmare.
Who is this guy? Oh my god! All right.
Okay, who do you like? Are you familiar in this moment? Like, do you remember the song, the Paul Barman song, or is it like you know the album, but you don't know the song as much?
I'm trying to think of the song specifically.
It's called "Excuse
You."
No,
I see. I can see that. Okay.
Who would Paul reference in?
Paul's going to reference Laurel and Hardy. That's who Paul's going with.
Okay, we're gonna hear the answer right now. I'm gonna play it for you.
Yo, rip it.
I make death tunes, take from MF Doom and Jeff Koons. No one left for the restrooms when I got.
Right,
MF Doom and Jeff Koons.
Like, what am I supposed to do here? What do people do when they get all the answers wrong?
Dave,
I'm the only one.
Look,
you've never done it when someone's gotten every answer wrong.
No, but this is fucking me up too, because I haven't, there's been a lot of different formats and things, and I do, I used to do like the trivia game format several times a week, and now I don't do it as frequently, and like this is like we haven't done one in a little bit, and now I'm like, did I crank up the okay, he's going for another Four Loko. Yeah, this is falling on deaf ears. Tell me how you got Paul Barman on the album. There's a song on the album that features Mike and Paul, right?
Yes. I mean, the way I got MC Paul Barman on the album is I asked him politely because he's a nice guy.
That's
no, but
fair.
I mean, Paul's a great dude, man. Mike introduced me to Paul's music in college. This like 2001 maybe. And he plays these songs that were like, what the fuck is happening here? And just incredible. And like, produced by Prince Paul, and just an incredible album. The Joy of the World is Paul Barman and stuff like that. Like, just stole my heart, and many years later, out of nowhere, I found myself just like kind of being casual friends with Paul, and sometimes texting with him, and sometimes being on the phone with him, and like that's just continued. And Paul's just like a really cool dude. Like, Paul's hilarious and fun and nice, and
he's very genuine. He's like, he's super genuine and super, and like I have like a bit of a friendship with him as well. And like what I loved about it was that like I forgot how like we got each other's numbers, but he just FaceTimed me like the first time, like just to talk. And like I love that. I'm like somebody, I feel like I'm the last like man standing who's like, yo, you don't have to text me first. Like, you could just call me. And I feel like FaceTiming first is maybe a little bit further, like past the line. But like, I was so impressed by the audacity of it that I was like, yeah, this is great. And now, we FaceTime each other and it's fine. Like, I'll put on a shirt if I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had this song and I had the verse, and I wanted, like, the beat was just one run of that beat. And I was like, this is dope. Let's make it two. I want to put someone else on it. So Controller 7 doubled the beat, and I did my verse, and I gave it to Mike. And then I was just like, I listened to it a few times, and Controller 7 like finished the beat, and like it was a finished song. And I'd listen to it, and I'm like, this is dope. But I'm like, it can go for one more. Like, I like the way that beat goes, and like how it starts, and the middle of it, and the ending. Like, I just love all the parts of that beat. I really like it a lot. And I did my thing, and I gave it to Mike, and Mike did his thing. And I'd listen to it, and I'd be like, yo, it can go for one more. I just knew it could go for one more. And it was like, who? Like, because, Mike is a certain elite level of rapper that's like, wow, this guy's got open mic on a song. But I've been working with Mike for years. I'm friends with Mike. So there's no surprise there,
Right.
Like, it's cool, but it's not a surprise. And I'm like, I need somebody that, like, people can listen to this and the song ends and then it starts again and there's open mic. You go, wow, that's a cool song. Like, and then the song ends and then there's another, like, who? And I'm like, what would work? And I'm like, fucking Paul that would be great. And I asked Paul and he was just like, sure, send me this. Like, I didn't have to, convince him. I was like, hey, Paul, I've got a song that I'd really love for you to be on. Would you be interested? Send me the song. Like, obviously, he still might not want to be on the song if it just wasn't up his alley at all. But I didn't have to sell him on it. It was just like,
right.
Hey, Paul, you interested? He's like, sure, send it to me and I'll listen. And
I love it. It's a highlight of the album for me, for sure.
And then after the album was done and mastered, Paul was like, hey, I changed my verse. And I was just like, fuck. But, like, that's MC Paul Barman.
So you went back and you changed it?
Yeah, that's MC Paul Barman. So what am I going to say? Like, no. Like, we had a song. It was great. I loved it. But I sent it to him. He listened to it. He was like, yeah, I kind of wanted to. So he wrote a new verse. And it was like, I promise you, like, the album had come back from mastering. And I'm like, all right, we're done. And it was like 2 days later, and Paul was like, hey, I changed my verse again. It was like, what? But hey, that's MC Paul Barman, so.
Can't be mad at it.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on to our third round. The third round is called Digging in the Crates. This is our sample round. I'm going to play you a sample, and you have to answer a question about it. So Jerry Butler's 1973 song, Whatever's Fair, was sampled on a song featuring this MC. Was it Brother Ali, Lupe Fiasco, Merce, or Mos Def? I'm going to play you the Jerry Butler song. You tell me who sampled it.
I mean,
which rapper?
There's no way I could get this wrong except for if I'm trying to lean into speaking about my life. But no, you have to be talking about Mos Def. That's Traveling, man. That's one of my favorite songs.
Memories
Don't live like people do. They always remember you. Whether things are good or bad, it's just the memories. Yo, I love that song so fucking much.
It's amazing. It's incredible. By the time this airs, it'll already be done. But I think very soon, this week, that from when we were recording this, Yassine Bey and Erykah Badu are in LA, and I'm like kind of thinking about
Really?
it. Yeah, they're playing at the Crypto.com arena.
When?
Like I think this weekend.
Really?
Well, we'll sidebar, but
Okay.
yes, like it's happening very soon. Traveling and touring kind of plays a big part into the makeup of this album, I would say. This is definitely like a traveler's log. And I saw that you were in you traveled to, was it like 60 countries or
I think probably 60 cities.
60 cities,
Yeah.
and many different countries. Yeah, as I said, I was like 60 countries is sort of insane.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure that Rihanna has hit 60 countries.
That'd be a little bit of fibbing.
Yeah.
But I'll go with it. Yeah, 60 countries every year. That's me. Passport. No. Yeah, I think
Yeah, we do.
from the time I started this album to the time it was done, mastered and like returned in my hand, 60 cities and maybe 10 countries that and that is part of the album, but that's just the way my life kind of like I've done a lot of traveling because of work, and it's always work. Like it's funny because it's always work. Like I've been on very few vacations in my whole life. Like I've been to many places, and one way or another it's always work. And lucky for me, I've been able to make work. Like when I say work, like I was talking about going on tour with Getty, but like that's a work trip. Like it's fun in life and better than a vacation. Yeah, but I didn't do that shit. That wasn't like me being like, oh, I want to go to these countries. That was somebody being like, hey, can you come and do this for me and go to these countries and do a job for me? And I'm like, sure. And I've done that for music. I've done that for reality TV, and not necessarily so much for my own personal life. And hopefully that's still coming. But like, yeah, I do enjoy traveling. I do a lot of traveling. And that kind of seemed to be one of the things about this album. A lot of this album was written on planes and in transit. So
yeah, it's definitely apparent. All right, we're gonna move on to the penultimate question in this round. The Turtles you showed me was sampled on the debut album by this group. Was it A Tribe Called Quest, Brand Nubian, Freestyle Fellowship, or Little Brother? Here is the sample.
You showed me how to do exactly.
Who sampled it?
wait, really?
Oh yeah,
These are the answers?
A Tribe Called Quest, Brand Nubian, Freestyle
I
Fellowship,
know that
or
sample
Little
from
Brother?
a whole different hip hop record. Écoutez. Écoutez. That's a De La Soul sample. Écoutez. Écoutez means listen. But like there's a whole De La Soul sample where they're playing that exact same sample and like the words, and there's like French words. It's like a lesson in speaking French.
That's right, but this somebody else used it, and they used it on
And
their
their
debut.
debut album.
Yeah.
Play it again.
You showed me how to do exactly what you do. How I fell in love with you. Oh.
That sounds like it might be part of people's instinctive travels. But then I'm not sure, because for me, all I'm hearing is that De La Soul sample. Like that is famously for me from De La Soul. Turtles from De La Soul, that song specifically. That one's unfair. Even though I've gotten all the other questions wrong.
We finally have hit the unfair one.
Yeah, this one's unfair because that for me is a De La Soul sample. Or is that another album? No. Écoute. That's not from the fucking Tribe album.
We need an answer, Dave.
A Tribe Called Quest.
Here we go.
Recently, I've seen MCs coming crude while I was.
See, no, that's not. I never would have guessed that. I didn't know. Damn, that's all Freestyle Fellowship. Wow, I got to hear that song.
It's Sunshine Man. Sunshine Man. Song.
I don't know this. You mixed me up on that one. Oh man, I feel terrible. I'm the worst at this game. I thought
we're gonna promote this as the worst episode of the questions.
The worst. I thought I'd be good at this game. I'm fucking terrible. This shit is embarrassing.
All right, Dave, we're gonna go into the final one. Rotary Connections cover of Jimi Hendrix's "Burning of the Midnight Lamp" was sampled in the opening song on this Jay-Z album. Was it Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter, The Dynasty, Rock La Familia, The Blueprint, or The Blueprint 2?
I'm going to know this. I'm going to get this.
All right, here we go. What's the album that samples this on the first song?
I remember the song so perfectly, but I can't remember if it was Volume 3 or The Dynasty. But it sounds more like Dynasty because The Dynasty was all about that big regal ass sound. But like, I remember that song. This is funny to me because it was like finally one where I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this one. And it's like, oh shit, I know that song, but was that the first song on Volume 3 or The Dynasty? Because let's
find out.
The first song on Volume 3 was really the "I'm So Good to Get a Chick's Fall in Love with Me." That's the first song on Volume 3, ain't it?
We'll say the first track.
Exactly, right. But it might have been the intro on Volume 3 and the intro on The Dynasty. I don't remember what the intro on The Dynasty was.
So you're going with Volume 3 or Dynasty?
I remember that fucking song. And then the next song is "So I'm So Gutter," which is what album is that on? So the next song, because that song leads into the "I'm So Gutter, Ghetto Chicks Fall in Love with Me." That's the intro, and the next track is that track. But what album was that? Fuck. So I know what I'm talking about. At least if I get this one wrong, y'all know I know what I'm talking about, because that was the intro. Like what you just played was the intro track, and then the fucking next track is the fucking Primo beat, which was that's Volume 3. That's Volume 3 when it was like, what, Jay-Z got a Primo track for his first single? That's Volume 3. Life and Times.
He's going Volume 3.
Yeah.
Volume 3 is correct.
All right, I knew it.
All right, Dave.
My reasoning was sound.
It was, and it paid off. It came through. We've reached our final round. It's called Time's Up. It's our speed round. You're going to have 90 seconds to answer 5 questions in the category of your choice. Here are your categories for today. The first is ha ha ha. The second is fly garments. And the third is hip hop Dave. So you pick your category and you will have 90 seconds to answer 5 non-multiple choice questions in the category of your choosing. What's it going to be?
Oh man, you're really setting me up for failure. Everyone thinks I'm going to go with Hip Hop Dave's. I'm going to ha ha ha.
He's going ha ha ha. Yeah. So Dave, you'll have 90 seconds to answer 5 of these questions. If you don't know, you can say pass.
Okay.
But if you get it wrong, it's dead. It's dead. We can't do any more.
I have one right answer this whole time, right?
You have 2 right answers. You have 2.
Okay.
Yeah, you got 2 of them right. Okay. You got the Most Def and the Jay-Z.
Okay.
So I have OC's Time's Up here, and it's time to 90 seconds.
How many questions have you asked me?
I've asked you 10, and you've gotten 2 correct. But look, we had a lot of fun, and that's what's most important.
A lot of fun.
And what I always say, Dave, is that like no matter what happens, when we end this podcast, you are still Video Dave. So you are still a winner. This does nothing to tarnish your legacy.
Other rappers are gonna make fun of me when they meet me. Never.
Dave, we're going to do this. Ha, ha, ha. 90 seconds on the clock. You ready to do this?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, here we go. 911 is a Joke was a single from this Public Enemy album.
Oh, I'm just supposed to answer it.
Yeah, you're supposed to answer. If you don't know, we can pass and come back.
Pass.
All right. This New York rapper was featured on the remix to Juvenile's 1998 single Ha.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z is correct. This rapper was the first hip-hop artist to be spoofed in a single by Weird Al Yankovic.
Chamillionaire.
Nope, it was Coolio. This comedian appeared at the end of a song on Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
D-Ray.
It was not D-Ray. It was Chris Rock.
Oh,
in
right,
2018,
Damn.
this rapping couple released a comedic concept album called Everything's Fine in 2018.
That's Jay-Z and Beyonce.
It is not Jay-Z and Beyonce. It was Jean Grey and Quelle Chris.
I'm
We're
drunk
going
now.
back. I know. What was the Public Enemy album that had 911 as a joke on it?
Fear of a Black Planet.
That is correct. Dave, you did a great job
No,
in
I
the final
didn't.
round. You got 2 of those correct. So I'm totaling up your score. You have 4 out of 15. But
That's horrible.
it doesn't matter.
No, it matters.
Look, Dave,
I'm amongst the lowest, aren't I? Be honest.
Look, I'll check the
I'm amongst the lowest.
I'll check the archives. But I'm not viewing this, and I hope you don't view this either as
A failure, a
like
complete loss.
A score. No, it's none of that. Like, was this a great episode? Did we have great stories? Did we learn more about you? Yes, I'm saying yes for all of these.
I mean, I suppose. You know when that reporter asked Giannis if the season was a failure, and he like read them like a book?
Yeah.
I'm the reporter. It was a failure. Season.
All right. So Dave,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah.
This is the lowest score.
This
that
is the
has
lowest
happened.
score. This is
This is the
terrible.
lowest score
This is
in the history
embarrassing.
of the game. No.
That means what?
I'm not.
This is a reflection on my album. This
No,
is a reflection
look.
on my hats. This is a reflection on me as a person.
I'm only
And-
letting you continue this line of thought because I know that this is a bit. This is not a reflection on your house.
I feel
this is
like
not a
I
reflection.
owe my
on,
parents an apology. I'm gonna have to call my mom after this and tell her that I've embarrassed our family line. And
well, can you at least get her to rate and subscribe to the podcast before? Like, if we're gonna do that, like,
I mean,
have her listen
she'll
as
rate
well.
and subscribe, but my grandmother's spinning in her grave. This
Wow,
is
that's a first. Dave, I want you to know that it's going to be all right. The Four Locos were definitely in full effect today. Look, I don't want you, as I said before, your video, Dave, that's what's most important after all this. The album is called Articulated Textiles. It's with Controller 7. It is available everywhere now. You're going to be hitting the road with Open Mike Eagle this summer, I want to say. July?
yeah. Just, I mean, a mere week and a half after you all first hear this total disaster of a podcast. I used to have fans until you heard this.
No. Look. People are going to hear this, and there's a lot of anxiety that happens for fans when they go and see artists of a certain caliber, and they like want to come up and say something, but they're like, oh, like, what do I say? Like, what? And now they can be like, hey, they can either be like, yo, what was going on the questions? And they'll be like, man, Sean was fucking you. Like, what was going on with the questions? He made it too hard, or this is a good icebreaker. That's what this is, Dave.
There was only one question I object to the answer. The rest of it, I just failed. I did a bad job. I don't know what to do with my hands.
We broke a man's heart today. And
Broken.
If you were
sad.
willing to listen to this and made it this far, then you're able to look at the pieces shattered on the floor. But Dave, I want to thank you again for appearing on the show.
I
really
I hope
appreciate
you guys I hope you guys could separate the art from the artist and give the album a shot. I'm sorry that I let you down. I know some of you bet large amounts of money that I was gonna murder this whole game.
Usually it's like an excited, like, yo, I'm really excited for you. The album's out now. I kind of feel like, yo, man, I hope your year gets better.
Yeah,
Like,
I hope things get better for me after this. And I'm sorry if you guys bet, because even after the recording of this podcast, I'm still going to keep pretending like I murdered this game for Vegas. I don't want to mess up the odds. So I'm still going to be talking my shit. You know what I mean? The questions, I killed that shit. I'm not going to let it up. So, I'm sorry.
You did kill it because this was a great episode. That's all. That's the final thing I'm going to say about it. You did kill it because this was a great episode. That's all I'm doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you,
Dave. I hope that we reconnect soon, and I'll definitely see you. I think I am going to see you before you hit the road, but we'll talk.
Word. I hope so.
All right. Peace.